They walked into a supermarket on a normal night. Security cameras saw them enter. Their car was still outside the next morning. But the couple themselves were never seen again. For nearly 3 decades, no one could explain how that was possible. Because they didn't vanish in the wilderness. They didn't disappear on a highway. They didn't cross borders or change identities. They vanished inside a building filled with people. And the truth was buried beneath concrete, rusted steel, and silence. Be sure to subscribe for more real crime stories, keeping you current on all things criminal. This is Crime Hall. Daniel Brooks was 34 years old. He worked as a machine operator at a packaging plant on the edge of Riverton, Ohio. The job was repetitive, loud, and exhausting, but it paid the bills. Daniel was the kind of man who showed up early, followed rules, and avoided attention. He didn't dream big. He believed in routine. His wife, Laura Brooks, was 31. She worked part-time as an assistant at a local elementary school library. Children loved her because she listened. Adults trusted her because she never caused problems. She smiled easily, laughed softly, and remembered details others forgot. They had been married for 7 years. No children yet, no enemies, no secrets. They rented a modest 2-bedroom home near the edge of town, saving slowly for a down payment on something bigger. Their life wasn't exciting, but it was steady, predictable. And every Thursday night, they did the same thing, groceries. That Thursday, Daniel arrived home just after 6:30 p.m. Laura had already started dinner, something simple. They ate, talked briefly about work, and laughed about a child who had tried to hide a comic book inside a dictionary. At around 7:40 p.m., Laura grabbed a notepad and scribbled a grocery list. Milk, bread, chicken, cereal, detergent. At 7:55, they got into their aging blue Chevy Cavalier and drove to Value Mart, a large supermarket on the outskirts of Riverton. Value Mart was always busy at night. Bright lights, long aisles, security cameras at the entrance. It was the last place anyone would expect something terrible to happen. At 8:06 p.m., a surveillance camera above the main entrance recorded Daniel and Laura walking inside. The footage was grainy, black and white, silent, but clear enough. Daniel wore a dark work jacket. Laura wore a light beige coat. She leaned toward him and said something. Daniel laughed. They grabbed a shopping cart and disappeared into the aisles. That footage would be replayed hundreds of times over the next few decades, because it was the last confirmed image of them alive. No camera inside the store captured them again. No cashier remembered ringing them up. No employee remembered seeing them leave. No one saw them return to their car. At 10:30 p.m., Value Mart closed. Employees locked the doors. Lights went dark. The parking lot emptied, except for one car. The next morning, the store manager arrived early. One of the first things he noticed was the blue Chevy parked near the side entrance, same spot as the night before. At first, he assumed it belonged to an overnight employee, but hours passed. No one came. When he looked inside the car, something felt wrong. The doors were locked, but the keys were sitting on the driver's seat. He called the police. Officers arrived and confirmed the car was registered to Daniel Brooks. There were no signs of a struggle, no broken windows, no blood, no damage. Daniel's wallet and Laura's purse were missing. They had entered the store with their belongings and never returned for their car. By noon, the reality set in. Daniel and Laura hadn't gone to work. They hadn't called family. They hadn't answered the phone. This wasn't like them. Detective Mark Holloway was assigned to the case. His first theory, voluntary disappearance, but it collapsed almost immediately. All of their clothes were still at home. Their savings account was untouched. No plane tickets, no notes. Second theory, kidnapping, but no ransom call ever came. Third theory, random crime, but there were no witnesses, no evidence, no bodies. Search dogs traced their scent from the car, straight to the supermarket entrance, and then nothing. The scent ended at the doors, as if they had vanished into the building itself. Value Mart had been built in the late 1970s. Big, old, poorly documented. Behind the public aisles were service corridors, maintenance tunnels, storage areas most shoppers never saw. Police searched everything. Storage rooms, loading docks, staff areas, basement hallways. They found nothing. No blood, no clothing, no sign of violence. The case stalled. Weeks turned into months. Posters with Daniel and Laura's faces faded on telephone poles. Their families begged for answers, but the store remained silent. And eventually, so did the investigation. Among the employees questioned was a maintenance technician named Harold Quinn, late 40s, quiet, unremarkable. He had worked at Value Mart since it opened. He knew the building better than anyone. Harold told police he had been repairing refrigeration units that night. He hadn't seen anything unusual. His story matched the logs. He was cleared, and just like that, the case began to die. Years passed. Ownership changed. Value Mart declined. Eventually it closed. The building stood abandoned. Windows boarded up. Signs faded. Silence inside. Daniel and Laura Brooks became a local legend. The couple who walked into a supermarket and vanished. No one imagined the truth was still inside that building, waiting. For nearly 25 years, the building stood there, silent, abandoned, ignored. The old Value Mart became a shadow at the edge of Riverton, a place teenagers dared each other to approach, a place adults avoided without knowing why. Weeds swallowed the parking lot, wind rattled broken signs. The once bright supermarket became a concrete husk holding its breath. And deep inside that husk, something was waiting. By 2019, Riverton had grown. New housing developments replaced empty fields. Shopping centers rose where factories once stood. And the land where Value Mart sat, large, centrally located, suddenly became valuable. A development company purchased the property. The plan was simple: demolish the old structure and build something new. Before demolition could begin, a crew was sent in to clear the building. They started from the top. Office spaces, ceiling panels, broken lights, dust thick enough to choke. Then they moved downward, toward the basement. At the far end of the basement, past old storage cages and collapsed shelving, one of the workers noticed something odd. A steel door, no handle, no window, no obvious way to open it. Paint peeled from its surface. Rust bloomed around the hinges. Faded red letters were barely visible. Service lift out of order. The foreman checked the blueprints. The door was there, but the lift hadn't been used in decades. According to the documents, it had been decommissioned in 1986, sealed after a safety violation. Most people would have ignored it, but demolition required checking everything, so they forced it open. When the steel finally gave way, the smell came first. Dry dust, stale moisture, and something else, something sickly sweet. The air that rushed out hadn't moved in years. Inside was darkness, absolute. One worker shined a flashlight down. The beam reached the bottom of a vertical shaft, about 10 feet below the basement floor. Debris covered the bottom. Cardboard, fabric scraps, broken wood. Then the light caught something pale, too smooth, too shaped. Another flashlight joined it. Silence followed, because scattered among the debris were human bones. Not one skeleton, two. Work stopped instantly. Police arrived within minutes. The abandoned supermarket became a crime scene. Forensic teams carefully descended into the shaft. The remains were skeletal but intact, preserved by darkness and dryness. Clothing fragments were found. A light-colored coat, almost completely decayed. A heavier jacket, fibers still clinging to bone. Then came the details that made everything real. A simple gold wedding ring, a rusted keychain, a car key, a Chevy key. One of the older officers at the station heard the news and froze. He remembered, and he said two words that hadn't been spoken in decades. The Brooks. The case file hadn't been opened in years. Yellowed pages, faded photographs. Daniel Brooks, Laura Brooks, missing, 1994. Everything matched. The clothing, the timeline, the keys. DNA testing confirmed it. The bones belonged to Daniel and Laura Brooks. They hadn't disappeared. They had been hidden. Forensic analysis told a darker story. Both victims had extensive fractures. Legs, arms, ribs. The injuries were consistent with a fall from a significant height. But the positioning of the remains told investigators something worse. They hadn't slipped. They hadn't stumbled. They had been thrown, one after the other. Investigators examined the lift system. The elevator wasn't welded shut, despite what records suggested. It had been locked. From the inside, only maintenance staff had the key. The shaft extended from the basement to a sealed upper service level, a floor most employees didn't even know existed. Someone had access, someone had knowledge, someone had control. The case was reopened as a double homicide, and the list of suspects was suddenly very short. Detectives reviewed employee rosters from 1994. One name stood out: Harold Quinn, maintenance technician, master key holder, still alive. Records showed something else: a maintenance log, dated 3 days before Daniel and Laura vanished. It noted an inspection of the service lift, signed by Harold Quinn. Detectives found Harold living alone in a quiet suburb 2 counties away. He was 73, thin, polite, unsurprised. When they mentioned the supermarket, he nodded. When they mentioned the elevator, his eyes shifted, just slightly. He said it had been sealed for years. but evidence said otherwise. The lock had been used, the lift could be manually operated, and someone had known exactly how to do it. Harold claimed he remembered nothing else. But memories don't erase maintenance logs, and they don't explain missing wallets, or why two people vanished without a trace, or why their bodies lay hidden beneath a supermarket floor for 25 years. The silence was breaking. For 25 years, the question had never changed. How do two adults disappear inside a crowded supermarket without a single witness? Now, for the first time, investigators weren't guessing anymore. They were reconstructing. On the night of September 22, 1994, Value Mart was busy but understaffed. Registers were open. Music played softly overhead. Employees rotated between aisles and storage rooms. Behind the public areas, however, the building lived a different life. Service corridors stretched like veins behind the walls. Unmarked doors led to mechanical rooms. And at the far end of one hallway was a narrow passage most employees forgot existed. That hallway led to the old service lift. Investigators believe Daniel and Laura didn't plan to go there. They weren't curious. They weren't reckless. They were simply lost. Value Mart's restrooms had been relocated months earlier. Temporary signs confused customers regularly. Laura likely asked an employee for directions. That employee was almost certainly Harold Quinn. Harold had access no one else did. Every door, every corridor, every hidden space. He also knew something important. The service lift didn't work like people thought. Though disconnected from the main power supply, it could still be operated manually from the upper service level using a hand-cranked mechanism. And no one ever checked it. Police believe Harold led the couple through the service corridor under the pretense of helping them. A shortcut, a back route, a place customers shouldn't have been. Once inside, everything changed. The space was quiet, hidden, soundproofed by concrete and machinery. Harold attacked. Daniel likely fought back. Laura likely screamed. No one heard. By the time anyone might have noticed, it was already over. Daniel's wallet was taken. Laura's purse disappeared forever. But robbery wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a much worse decision. Because now Harold had witnesses, 2 of them, and he knew exactly where to put them. The elevator shaft. The service lift shaft was the perfect hiding place. Dark, deep, sealed. Harold led them up the service stairs to the upper access point, one at a time. Investigators believe Daniel was thrown first. Laura followed moments later. The fall killed them instantly. Then Harold did something chilling. He closed the shaft, locked it, and walked back to work. To the outside world, Daniel and Laura simply vanished. Their scent ended at the entrance. No blood was found. No one saw anything. Harold finished his shift, clocked out, went home, and never spoke of it again. The elevator was officially out of service. It wasn't on search maps. It wasn't inspected. It wasn't remembered. When police searched the building, they searched around it, not inside it. The truth sat just feet away, unseen. Harold believed the building would stand forever. He believed no one would ever open that door. He was wrong. Because buildings age, and secrets rot. Harold Quinn had spent most of his life fixing things. Broken motors, faulty wiring, doors that wouldn't close. He believed every problem had a solution if you knew where to look. For 25 years, he believed this one was solved too. He was wrong. The room was small. Gray walls, a metal table, 2 chairs. Harold sat calmly, hands folded, posture relaxed. He wasn't nervous. Men who carry secrets for decades rarely are. Detective Holloway placed a folder on the table. Inside were photographs, bones at the bottom of a shaft, a rusted keychain, a gold ring. Harold looked at them for a moment longer than necessary. Then he sighed. I knew this day would come. He didn't deny knowing Daniel and Laura. He didn't deny the elevator. What he denied was intent. He said it was an accident. He said things got out of hand, but the details didn't support him. Harold claimed the lift had been sealed, but investigators had proof it was locked, not welded. Only one group had keys. Maintenance, Harold. They showed him the work log. His signature, dated 3 days before the disappearance. He stared at it, said nothing. As detectives dug deeper, they uncovered something the original investigation had missed. Complaints, missing cash from employee lockers, personal items disappearing, incidents never reported formally because nothing could be proven. All during Harold's shifts were petty theft, escalating over time. Detective Holloway leaned forward. Why them? Harold's voice was quiet. I needed money. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't emotional. It was practical. Cold. He admitted he'd panicked. That killing them hadn't been the plan. But once it happened, he knew exactly what to do. Harold described closing the elevator doors, locking them, walking back into the bright supermarket as if nothing had happened. He said he listened to customers laugh as he passed, said he went home that night and slept well, for decades. As long as Value Mart stood, he felt safe. He followed news of the case, watched the families beg, and said nothing. Time, he believed, was on his side. When the confession ended, Harold was silent again. Officers stood, handcuffs clicked. For the first time in 25 years, the truth was louder than the building that hid it. The Brooks family finally had answers. No justice could return what was taken. But silence no longer owned the story. When the trial began, the courtroom was full. Not because Harold Quinn was famous, not because the crime was recent, but because the town had lived with this question for nearly 3 decades. What really happened to Daniel and Laura Brooks? Now everyone was finally going to hear it. The prosecution laid out the story piece by piece. The routine grocery trip, the last camera footage, the abandoned car, the elevator shaft. Jurors were shown diagrams of the building, hidden corridors, sealed doors, forgotten levels. They listened as forensic experts explained the fractures, the fall, the impossibility of accident. Then came the maintenance logs, Harold's handwriting, Harold's signature, a silent witness that had waited 25 years to speak. Harold's lawyers tried one final argument: time. They argued memories fade, evidence deteriorates, intent becomes unclear. But bones don't forget gravity, and keys don't lie. DNA confirmed identity, engineering confirmed access, and Harold's own confession closed the door for good. After only 4 hours of deliberation, the jury returned. Guilty, 2 counts of first-degree murder. Harold Quinn showed no emotion as the verdict was read. When asked if he had anything to say, he shook his head. The judge sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The man who had trusted time to erase his crime would now live the rest of his life counted by it. For Daniel and Laura's families, the sentence didn't bring joy. It brought closure. They held a joint funeral. 2 coffins, 1 gravestone, names that had been missing, finally carved in stone. Weeks later, demolition resumed. Excavators tore through concrete and steel. The elevator shaft, once a tomb, collapsed into rubble. Where Value Mart once stood, a modern shopping center rose. Glass, light, noise. People walked through it every day without knowing what had been beneath their feet. The disappearance of Daniel and Laura Brooks is no longer a mystery. It's a warning that evil doesn't always hide in dark alleys. Sometimes it wears a uniform, carries keys, and waits for routine to make you careless. The most ordinary places can hold the darkest secrets. And sometimes, the truth doesn't come out until the walls come down. They went in for groceries. They never came out. But in the end, their story did.